sharing. I'll just do the introduction first. Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to week 3 of INFA 0001 Advanced Business Analysis. So great to see some of you have made it here, even though it's a public holiday, but as you know, it's not a public holiday for us, unfortunately. And I saw some are online as well, so hopefully a few more will join us as well. And as you know, today we have the pleasure of having a guest lecturer, Mr. Arash Arabi, here. So Arash is the CEO of Sprint Agile and also the author of a book called The Wise Enterprise, Reshape Your Organization for the Age of Uncertainty. And he has worked with a number of the big companies like ANZ, Toyota, Telstra, Infosys, and Amazon. So he's got a really broad knowledge and experience in the field of business analysis and project management, all these areas that are of interest to us. And as you know, the week 3 topic is on stakeholder analysis and management. So that's a very important topic, so I'll let Arash speak to it later on. But obviously, if you're not really aware, let's say as a business analyst or a project manager, of who all these stakeholders are that will be affected by your project and what they actually think about the project and whether they can help you or harm your project, etc., then you haven't done your job. So there's a lot of need for awareness and then potentially managing these different stakeholders in an appropriate way. And some of these things we're going to be discussing today. So this is all a bit adventurous. As you know, I haven't actually used the HiFlex room before, so we try to record everything. So please be aware you're being recorded now through the Collaborate Ultra session. So hopefully I can make the recording available then afterwards. And we'll see how we go with sharing the slides and maybe switching between camera view and slide view. We'll play around, but hopefully the session I think will be very interesting. So I know Arash has prepared a bit of a hands-on activity. So look forward to the presentation. And I'll try to start up all these slides and hand over to you, Arash.
Great, thank you, Axel. Thanks everyone. I'm so glad to be here and really happy to see you here in person, especially after so many Zoom calls and COVID and everything. It's really good to be in person. Now, let's see if we can get the slides up and then we get started. How much time do I have?
We've got a 2-hour slot. All right.
And then
yeah, I think we should be good. Now I just realized we haven't got the full screen view here.
Oh yeah, no, I was just looking at it.
Yeah, all right.
See if I can see
Okay.
my notes.
And I guess you probably can switch the camera view here.
That's fine.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of figuring out how this all works. It's really like
Today I
a
can
lot of
see my
techno.
notes. It's just a slide, but that's alright.
Okay.
Okay, welcome everyone. It's so good to be here with you. Now, this session is not going to be a lecture. It's going to be an interactive, collaborative workshop. So I want you to participate. As I'm going through the slides, as I'm telling you things. If you have any questions, just jump in. Feel free to jump in. No need to wait. No need to raise your hand. If you're uncomfortable, you want to raise your hand, that's fine. But if you don't, if you just want to talk, that's okay. It's just I don't know how many, like less than 20 people. It's manageable, so we can have a collaborative session. If I say something stupid, say, hey, Arash, that's stupid. I don't like that, And let's have a conversation. See if we can, figure something out together and have a collaborative workshop. And after the slides, I have a game. We will get into groups of 5 people, and I have roles. So everyone will take a role of a specific stakeholder. One person will be the BA, and then there's some challenges and some secret agendas and things like that. So it's gonna be fun. Great. Any questions or comments before we get started? So that's a bit about me, but thanks to Axel, sorry, he introduced me. Give all the details. Now, stakeholders. Of course, stakeholders are not people who hold stakes. They're people in the project that you have to deal with on a regular basis. And what we'll do today is we will talk a little bit about some stakeholder analysis tools, which you may be familiar with. We'll go through and practice with them. And then we will talk about some techniques, some soft skills, how to deal with stakeholders, difficult conversations, how to understand them better, and how to influence them. And finally, we'll have the game. So there are, tens of different tools for stakeholder management and stakeholder analysis. But today we'll talk about 2 tools which I particularly find very useful. First one is Power Interest Grid, and the second one is Stakeholder Management Worksheet. Has anyone seen the Power Interest Grid before? Yeah, a few people I can see are nodding. That's the Power Interest Grid, and yeah, it is. So we have 2 axes here. We've got the interest and the power, and we're talking about, say, a specific stakeholder. Let's say you're a BA in a project and the project manager. Project manager would be very interested in the project and has reasonable level of power. So project manager will probably sit somewhere around here, right? CEO of the company, depending on the project, may not have a lot of interest in the project and the details of the project, but of course is the most powerful person in the organization. So it's probably somewhere around here. So first you have to identify your stakeholders, and then you're going to drop a dot for every stakeholder on this grid, and that's going to give you some insight on how to deal and engage these various stakeholders. Depending on where they fit, manage closely. Those are the people that you have to work really closely with and focus on. Keep satisfied. Of course, these are the powerful people. You want to keep them satisfied. Keep informed. They have interest, but maybe not as much power, so not as much important to you. So you keep them informed. And these people probably don't want to spend as much energy and time and effort on them, because we have limited amount of time and energy, and we want to focus that on getting the project moving, so we focus on the more important stuff. Now, once you've done this, any questions on this so far? Once you've done this, then we move to the next tool, which is the Stakeholder Management Worksheet. Now, get the name of the stakeholders from the previous grid. We put them here, and we drop the comms approach from that slide, so from the previous one. So manage closely, keep satisfied, keep informed, or monitor. Put it there. Now here, key interests and issues. What are they interested at? What are the issues that could be going on in their head? What are their concerns and things like that? Current status, are they an advocate of the project, supporter, neutral, critic, or a blocker? And desired status, so what level of support you want from this person? So some person may be very important, some person may be under managed closely, but they may already be an advocate, or for whatever reason you may not need a lot of support for them, so that would be a no. Desired actions, what do you want them to do? And actions, what will you do? Right. Now we'll fill one of these together right away. Any questions so far?
just make a quick comment. So I think this will nicely complement what we have in the lecture slide deck for this week. So we haven't talked about these things, but in this week's slide deck, there is something about the power interest grid. We haven't got this nice overview that you're showing here, where you then go into the level of what actions are we going to take, etc. So yeah, so it will be good to look at that afterwards as well and make the connections.
Fantastic. Right, now let's do a test run. I've got a few people here as we work on our project. The first person is Elon Musk. Then we've got Bill Gates, Richie Branson, and Warren Buffett. Probably know these people. And we have already done the power interest grid, and that's what we came up with. So Elon Musk is powerful and has a lot of, Elon Musk. He's powerful and has got a lot of interest. Bill Gates has a lot of power but not much interest. Richie Branson doesn't have much power, doesn't have much interest in this one. And Warren Buffett is a lot of interest but not much power, right? If you remember from the previous slide, that's how we came up with this one. Key interests. Elon Musk care about delivery within budget. So maybe he's a very senior person, CXO or something, and that's what they care about. Bill Gates cares about the satisfaction of the end users. Richie Branson thinks what we're doing is a waste of time, but they work in a different department, so they don't have much of a say in this area that we are at. And Warren Buffett feels the company resources can be better spent on his project, not ours. Sorry, Axel, something is happening. I don't know if people are asking questions. Did you notice?
People are asking questions.
I don't know. So some flickering happened
I
here.
might see if I can monitor that here.
So
I don't know how we change, because we have the same screen on both. If I go escape, then obviously we're out.
It might have been nothing. So you know what that is.
That's the chat. No, there's nothing in the chat.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. Now, desired support. Well, of course, these two are high. This one is low. This one is also high. So we got supporter, which is high, advocate high, blocker low, and blocker high. Now, based on these two columns, you tell me, what shall we do with each of these stakeholders? What should be our approach? What do you think?
What is that like? The desired support, how do we do that?
Desired support is how much support we need from them. Do we care that they are a blocker or a supporter or an advocate or not? Sorry?
I'm not Richie Branson.
You're right. That's right. So in this case, even though Richie Branson is a blocker, we don't care much about him because he falls under the monitor section. You remember in the power interest grid? But Owen here is a blocker, but he's under keep satisfied. So maybe we care, and especially because our level of desired support is high for this person, we have to do something about it to convert him to a supporter and an advocate. How about these two? How much focus shall we put on those two people? What do you think? Okay, let me ask you another question. What would you do to convert Owen to an advocate or a supporter? How can you do that? Throw me some ideas. There's no wrong or right. we have a situation when there's someone who's undermining our project, right? You're a BA in that project, and you really need them to work with you and help you, but they don't want to. What would you do? Yes?
Would you show the benefits of the project would provide, or the statistics that would appear after the project?
Great, that's a good point. What else would you do?
It might be sometimes just try to influence but risk out that like a directly benefit from the project. Because for example the last one they feel like we very desired the support from them in a high level. So actually for this project is maybe have direct benefit to him, but he didn't know about that one. That's why he still like want to look at his project more than our project. But if we can explain and influence them with the direct benefit that he will get from our project,
Yeah.
they might like
Right.
have better support.
That's good. What does it mean for you? What's the benefit for me? Show the benefit for me and my team person. I really like that approach. Now, let's make it a bit harder. Let's say Warren Buffett is the CFO of the company, right? They don't even know you exist. What would you do then?
Show numbers.
Sorry?
Show numbers.
Show them numbers. Like, how would you even book a meeting for them or something?
Because for actually to do that one, we can do is like require because he might be the CFO, but when we do the project, we also have our chief of our department. The thing that I have ever done is we require the support from our chief to explain them to understand it first. When they support us, then they can connect it between the top level and top level, and then there will be like a kind of support and help us to explain what is will be helpful to the organization.
Yes, absolutely. So you find someone who can influence that person, who they listen to, right? And approach that person. And if that person is an advocate or supporter, even better because they're already on board, right? You can convince them easily to go and talk with this person and gather their support. Now there is something. Do you have like whiteboard markers or anything? If not, I can draw here.
Oh,
No, let's go. I'll draw here. So there is something called the curve of what's it called? The diffusion of innovation curve. Think of a normal distribution curve. I'm going to just draw here. Maybe small, right? You can see it, right? So if this is you all know what normal distribution curve is, right? So when there's a new idea, a population reacts to that idea statistically according to this normal distribution curve. So first, there's going to be a group of people, this area. These would be your innovators. These would be people who really quickly convert. Oh yeah, I'm on board. Fantastic, let's do this thing, right? People who are already aligned with you. Now think of, for example, when there's a new iPhone released, people who are going and waiting the night before in the line, so they're the first person to get their hands on the iPhone, these would be the right? Next we have, so we got our innovators, we have our, what's next? Early majority, right? We got our late majority, and there's one more. Innovators, something, I can't remember the name, something, which is really good. Then early majority, then late majority, and then laggards, right? So this would be 2.5%, this would be 13%, this would be something like 20-something percent, 20-something percent, and again like 15-16% here, right? These laggards would be people who they don't want to do it, right? they don't agree with you, and they're going to, they will convert only when they have to, when they have no other choice. So when we are trying to convince people, typically we end up focusing on people who disagree with us first, right? But that would not be very effective. The more effective way is to focus on the people who are already aligned with you first, get their support. Once you have gathered the support of this group of people, then you can easily go over this curve and leave these people till last. But as humans, if someone disagrees with us, we have that natural tendency of going and trying to pick a fight with them. But we have to be careful of who do we fight with, how do we pick our fights. We don't really want to fight anyone. Now, let's see. So this is as far as well. So, of course, Richie we're going to ignore. We don't care about that person because they are under the monitor section. Low interest, low power. What we want from them, Owen, we want him to stop being a blocker. We want Ellie, who's the most powerful person, to go and talk to Owen, right? Maybe together with Will. So we go talk with Will and Ellie to, talk to. We want Will to talk to Ellie Musk and convince him to talk to Owen, and we want Ellie and Will together to talk to Owen and convince them, right? So what actions will we do? We will book a meeting in person with Will to explain the situation and ask him to go talk to Ellie. And we book a meeting with Will together to go and talk to Ellie, convince him, you guys, both of you, you should go and make sure Owen doesn't feel company resources is better spent on his project and rather invest in our project. Any questions or comments? Yes?
Okay, so you've taken the first step of reaching out to your CEO, someone with high authority and power, and still if they are resisting, what should you do?
Right. Story of everyday life, right? Absolutely. There is so many competing priorities in organizations, and that happens all the time. So stakeholder engagement and dealing with stakeholders is not there is science to it, but there's also an art to it, and it's the best analogy that I have is think of back in the times of the Romans. You're a general, and you have to strategize. You have to think. The enemy is changing their position, and the situation is dynamic. Everything is changing. How would you react to changing conditions? I'm going to try this approach. If it doesn't work, what other approach can I take? Can I go behind the enemy lines and do whatever, right? So you approach your CEO, it didn't work. Can I approach, okay, who else does this person trust? Is there another person in his or her team, maybe under me, that I can approach? And influence, it's really interesting because influence with power, with authority comes influence. But also sometimes people without authority, they have influence. Maybe there is someone in the company who has been there for 30 years and is a very charming person. Everyone knows him, everyone loves him. Even, Owen loves him, so you can go and talk to that person. You can try different avenues, basically. Any other questions or comments?
I guess it's also important to understand, obviously, who's the business sponsor for the project, right? Because they are the ones who have committed to it, the resources.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then work through them as well.
Yes. So that's very important one, because when the business sponsor understands the importance of working with one of those blocker stakeholders or whoever that's the issue, once they understand the importance of that, they are going to help you with that, right? Because they have committed their resources and it's important for them to deliver this project. Very important. Great. Now, be very careful when you're using these tools, right? Because it's here, you know, we are all in a friendly environment. We talk about picking our fights. We talk about, you know, which person is important, how to strategically approach people. But if someone sees that sheet, you know, in the office, and this could be a double-edged sword. So they could say, why is my name under the keep informed and not under, you know, the keep satisfied thing? So this is something you do on your own probably, or maybe if you want to collaborate with someone on a whiteboard. But then, depending on the situation, I personally don't like to keep these as project artifacts. These are things for me personally to help me think clearly and strategize and move forward, but not as documents to keep. Right? Okay. Now, any questions before we move to the next section or comments? So next, we're going to talk about effectively understanding and influencing stakeholders. First we understand, then we influence, right? Has anyone seen this chart? The real organization chart? Understanding is key. The idea is you need to know what's going on around you, right, in an organization. It's what we call in martial arts or military situation awareness. Anyone into martial arts here? Nice. There are a few people raising hands.
I forgot to mention that you're a Taekwondo master.
Yes.
We
Thank you.
can talk about that as well.
Yes, I'm really I love martial arts and I do Taekwondo myself. So in martial arts we talk about situational awareness. And what that means is basically knowing what's going on around you. It doesn't mean being alert, right? Being, you know, panicky or paranoid. It means being aware. You know what's happening around you. You know, someone is standing there, someone is standing there. What are they doing? Looking at their phones. You know, if I'm walking, can they be a danger? In military, this is very important because you have to assess and see where is dangerous situation, who is a civilian, and blah blah blah, right? So it's the same type of mindset in organization. Basically, knowing what's going on around you, being observant of what's happening around you, and this information can be very powerful in managing your stakeholders and approaching them. If they're a blocker or if you want to influence them in a specific way, you can know who to approach, who to engage, and how to influence, right? Also, knowledge is power, right? So understanding is key, because once you know what's going on around you, you can better predict the future of your project, you can better gather requirements, and you can better do your job, because you can read in between the lines, and you can make that knowledge, use that knowledge to make sure the project moves forward and delivers better results. Any questions or comments?
I'm just thinking how influence also can become manipulation, and then the ethics of it as well.
Love it, because we do have a slide exactly on that topic. Perfect. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because we talk about professional ethics and the ACS, etc.
Yes.
Yeah, but you need to do some of these politics as well to be successful. So it's an
Yes.
interesting balance.
Absolutely, and it's a very fine line in between what is ethical and what is not, right? I would say we'll definitely talk about that in more details, but just one opinion that I have is understanding is one of the most important things that we should be focusing on in an organization, even before influencing. Because how do we know what we think is right is right? You think this is the best course of action, you think this stakeholder needs to do this, but how do you know that's true? You don't know. Right? There's so many factors involved. Understanding is key. Nice. And understanding comes with empathy, right? Empathy and understanding are kind of interchangeable, not really, but there's a level of connection between these two words. How do you define empathy? What's empathy?
The ability to understand someone else's point of view.
Yes, absolutely. Empathy is your ability to see the world through someone else's existence, right? Experience the world through someone else's existence, cognitively and emotionally, right? That's the maximum level of understanding you can have for one person. Empathy is not putting yourself in someone else's shoe. You know, in English we say we put ourselves in someone's shoe, but that's not empathy. That's what we call projection. Because I'm a different person. I have different upbringing, I have different values, I have different family history, I have different agenda and everything. If I put myself in someone else's shoe, I would be still seeing the world through my eyes, right? What I need to do is completely forget about myself and focus on the other person. That's empathy. What are they actually feeling and what are they actually thinking? And this is not easy, right? So how can you be more empathic? What are some techniques can you think of that will help you better understand someone from their point of view? Sorry?
Understanding the person's background.
Yes, yes. What else?
Listening to them and paying attention to details.
Absolutely, listening and paying attention. Absolutely. What else?
Asking the right questions.
Asking the right questions. Yeah, definitely. To me, listening and paying attention, that's probably one of the most important things to do. And focus and curiosity. Curiosity is very important. I really want to know you as a person. You know, I want to understand you. What's going on in your head? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Being truly curious about that person, to understand them and know better as a person and how they think and how they feel, that's very important. Absolutely. Any questions or comments so far? Now, we're going to talk about listening. Listening is a superpower, right? If done right. Because a lot of times we think we're listening, but we're actually not listening. And what's stopping us from listening properly sometimes is our inner, I'm going to get a bit philosophical and deep here, our inner anxieties and insecurities, right? That is actually stopping us from paying full attention. Now let's contrast two different mindsets. First mindset, I know the answers. I just have to convince this person. I'm listening to them so that I can form an argument to convince them to follow along. That's mindset number one. So what you end up doing is you will end up listening to respond, not listening to understand, right? and that's defensive listening. So you're actually basically listening to form an argument. You're not listening to see what's going on. You're not listening to empathize and figure out what's going on in their heads and in their hearts, right? As a result, what ends up happening is you will not understand well, you'll have limited scope, limited understanding, and you wouldn't know the unforeseen consequences of your decisions because you have less information, right? Also, the other person won't feel heard because people can tell, are you listening actually or not? And as a result, suboptimal or poor decisions and reduced level of your credibility as a leader, as a person who listens, right? Now, the second mindset. I don't have all the answers. I only see part of the picture. And I'm going to understand you. I'm going to empathize with you so my purpose for listening is to understand, not to convince, right? Listening to understand, not to respond. That's, when you use some of the active listening techniques that you probably have heard about, or some YouTube videos or something. Once you do this, you'll have better understanding, you develop deeper perspective, more data points, and you would know the unforeseen consequences of your decisions. They become foreseen, not anymore unforeseen. And the other person would feel valued and heard, right? As a result, better decisions, and your credibility increases as a leader, as someone who listens. Now, what does it actually mean? When someone is talking, we need to have a genuine intention of understanding them and have that curiosity, right? And this is very important, and sometimes, we all have trouble with this. In corporations, sometimes there are really complex things that need to be communicated. And these complex things they take a lot of effort, and they need a train of thought. So when someone is talking, when they're forming an argument, they are following a train of thought. And interruptions cuts that. And they have to go back to square one, and they may not be able to communicate as well as they could have done without that, right? So it's very important not to interrupt. If someone says something which you feel it's incorrect, if someone says something which you feel is, needs to be corrected, sometimes, not always, but we have to be careful. When? Not to interrupt them, right? Let them finish it. It could take 1 minute, 2 minutes of talking as a monologue. After that, if you disagree with them, then you can pause, let it sink in, and then say, well, I disagree with this and this and this. You can always take notes and things like that, right? Now, anyone familiar with fallacies? Logical fallacies? Hasn't heard this word? Check it out. It's something very interesting and very important when we're forming arguments, and all of us use them. Fallacies is basically incorrect ways of forming arguments. For example, a very famous fallacy is a straw man fallacy. I say something, and then you repeat that, but slightly change it, and say, oh, so you're saying this and this and this. But no, I didn't say that, right? So that's a very, one example. There's like 30 different fallacies. And fallacies, we use them subconsciously all the time. A lot of people, sometimes in companies, in politics, they use it intentionally. So when we are listening, absolutely, we have to be careful about fallacies and to identify them and how to navigate them, and be aware not to use them myself, right? And one of the techniques, this one is not a fallacy, but it's a technique, which is called a shotgun argument. So you keep interrupting that person, They say something, say, oh, but how about this? And then they, oh, how about this? How about this? You keep interrupting them, one after another, question after question. They lose their train of thought completely, right? And they can't continue with that argument. So you have to be very careful. If our intention is understanding, right, to avoid fallacies and navigate them. Any questions or comments?
I was also thinking about the red part here. I'm teaching the research subject, and a lot of the students here are in the research subject as well. And there we talk about confirmation bias. So very often you may have your own kind of mental model already, or your ideas, your own point, and then everything you hear, you kind of approach from that confirmation bias. It just fits your model, but it may not be actually what this person meant, right? So that's why you really need to listen and
On the spot, absolutely. And going back to that scientific empirical mindset that how do I know I'm right? I may be incorrect, you know, there may be my views, my biases may not be true. So letting go of that. Open-mindedness. Right. Next. How are you doing for time? Let me see the time. Oh, that's 11, 15. Ooh, we've got heaps of time. Right. So influence. There is a very thin line between influence and manipulation, right? And as you can see, influence here has two pillars: empathy and integrity. Take that integrity away, it's manipulation, right? So you need to be, but we need to have integrity. We need to be careful and have that ethics to make sure what we are doing is not manipulation. Is not forcing that person into a corner and they're making decisions, informed decisions based on their free will, basically, right? And with these two pillars, empathy, we talked about it. If you want to convince someone, you need to understand what they want and what's important to them. So you can talk with them with their language. And be very careful, because I'm sure you all have heard stories or experienced this. Your boss telling you that if you do this, I'm going to give you a big salary raise or give you a better position that you're after, and use that as characteristics to influence you to do stuff, but that never happens, right? So, am I subconsciously insincere when I'm saying things? You have to be careful about what we are implying, even not just what we are saying, but even the onset can imply things that are insincere. So sincerity and integrity are very important. Now, question to you. Apart from what you can see here on the slide, what else can help you influence? Say again? Reward, yes, absolutely. Reward can help. Carrots and sticks, yeah. What else? Acceptance, what do you mean by that?
Some people is just like value for the acceptance from others people, and then it can influence apart from the money or like monetary reward.
So basically telling them what they aligns with their views, is that what you mean?
Somehow like I think what they value might be different.
Mm-hmm.
So they might value their acceptance of the group, or
Yeah.
it's different. People have different inspiration or different influence.
Yes. So that's a very important point, and it kind of goes back to empathy. Because if you have empathy and you understand them well, you would create the situation, the conditions that would allow them to better accept that point of view. Or if not yourself, you can get someone else who is in their group and have more influence on them to do it. Absolutely. What else?
Basically connecting with them. So if we show them that we have a connection,
Yes.
and then so we can influence a group of people, then more people can join and
Yes.
influence more people.
Yeah.
Vision.
Sorry?
Vision.
Vision, aligning with the vision. Absolutely, absolutely. And sorry.
Impact of the change or their work that
Yeah.
really meaningful for others, how it could help or it's like devastating to others.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So I want to go back to what you were saying. Just having that human connection is important. Sometimes, have you seen these salespeople, for example, they're selling charity on the street, and they come and ask you, and they ask you very nicely, can you help me with the charity? Maybe. So even having that human connection and being nice, there's something which is often not paid attention to, but I believe is very important. It's overlooked quite a lot. That's charm. Being charming as a person, right? Dressing well, cleaning, and having a nice whatever, just looking beautiful, basically, looking charming, and being an interesting person, being someone who people enjoy talking to, being a person where people enjoy spending time with. That has a massive impact. And you just ask people what you want, and they're gonna say yes.
So these are all kind of soft factors, more or less, right? What about also having better or good arguments, like the kind of really having facts that speak for whatever you trying to achieve?
Absolutely, on the spot.
That's a given. I guess that's
absolutely.
the basic, and then
Absolutely, because that's what we do as business analysts. We're collecting information, presenting them in a presentable format, and making sure we are helping people connect the dots and get the information. Any questions or comments?
Question, how does ethics play an important role in influencing?
On the spot, ethics. I mean, we have a pillar for that. That's integrity. Making sure what you're doing is not manipulation. Making sure you're not doing anything wrong. Hey, kickbacks. You do this for the project, I'm gonna pay you $100 or something, whatever, right?
What's ethical to me might not be ethical for you.
Well, what you said, there's an element of true in it, but not always. I would say 99% of stuff is unethical for everyone, right? There's only 1% of stuff which may not be ethical for one person, but another person. But in most cases, I mean, anything illegal, of course, shouldn't be done. Any time that people are cornered into making decisions, that's unethical, right? People need to make decisions on a free will.
My question lies in terms of few companies, like for US-based company, example Target.
Yes.
Yeah, what's Target's doing is actually sharing, like using the customer's data to suggest advertisements, and based on and it can actually understand and can actually
Right. Yes.
know if the customers are whatever the customers what they need and what. I was reading in one of the article where the Target actually knows if their customers are actually pregnant.
Yes.
So if that's not if that's ethical for Target, it might not be ethical for
Yes.
the UK-based companies where EU norms play an important role.
So, my answer to that is, because that's subjective.
Yeah.
Be clear what's ethical to you and have integrity on that. For example, for me specifically, right? I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't collect data on my clients. If my boss asked me to do it, I'd say, okay, no, I'm not going to do that. That's unethical, right? And being clear and having that red line and not staying back from that red line, right? I got big, massive project offering $100,000 from a gambling company. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. You're a gambling company. I will not do any work for a gambling company, right? So being clear on what you believe is ethical and drawing the line, I said, no, it's okay. No, it's just data. So yeah, that's important. Any other questions or comments?
is difficult, this whole topic of ethics in professional context, but it feels like it becomes so important, right? When we see really also politics and so where we've been going in the last 10 years, pretty much. So I feel like ethics is more important than ever. But it is not a simple answer to what is ethical, what is not ethical. Value systems are different, and they are always based in individual backgrounds as well. Yes.
On the spot, I believe it's the most important thing. You know, our situation, almost everything bad that's happening today is because of unethical decisions that someone has made, right? So yeah, it's number one, the most important thing. Absolutely.
The big scandals we've seen with companies here, the big four, right? There's all these things that we had last year, and it comes down to unethical decisions. And yeah,
On the spot, absolutely. And it's hard because a lot of times, like you said, the line is very thin to decide what is ethical, what is not. And a lot of times, especially in corporations, because accountability, because of the system of accountability is shared, people do not feel that I'm responsible and accountable for this. They feel they're playing a little tiny part in it, so it makes it easier to make unethical decisions, rather than if it's a small business and the CEO of that small business, then it's my business, you know, everything is mine and I have clear accountability for it. But if it's lots of shareholders, big company, many approvals, everyone has to sign off on it, and whose accountability is it if everyone is signing off? So yeah, you have to be really careful. 100% agree. And in my opinion, just voicing it is also very important. So not doing something, not making unethical decision is important, but also saying something about it. I'll give you one example. 2016, I can't remember, around that time, I was working in a company which was making software for construction industry. And every time they made a big sale, there was channel, everyone would, you know, they would post it there, we made this massive sale, and they would celebrate. And someone posted that, oh, finally the Adani Carmichael coal mine in Queensland is going ahead, so we made this massive sale. And I thought, well, that rings a bell. I checked the coal mine, and it's apparently one of those coal mines which is polluting quite a lot, and it's, you know, damaging the Great Barrier Reef and everything. So I just posted on the channel and said, well, yeah, great, you made that sale. There's a lot of effort that has gone to making that, but I wish I was working in a company who wouldn't, you know, work with clients who are polluting the environment and things like that. As soon as I said it, there's like 10 other people behind me. And some of them really senior, saying, yeah, you know, what are we doing? You know, I wish we were doing things that were better for the environment and everything. So sometimes just saying what your opinion is, and you think something is unethical, it's just going to make a movement. And very powerful.
And it can be very difficult, of course, because you get under pressure to do things that maybe not ethical, and so it requires a lot of courage, and
it does.
It may have consequences. But
absolutely, it may have consequences. Usually, not always, but usually, it's better. Like you are established as a person who is, you know, can stand up for what they believe in, and people respect you more usually. But it definitely, I've seen consequences.
I totally agree. I think this integrity aspect is also something for the long term, right? You may be succeeding in a project right now by manipulating and doing something bad, but it will come back to bite you, because kind of people realize whether you have integrity or not over the long term.
Absolutely, on the spot. Especially if you're a contractor, those consequences are more severe. If you are a permanent employee, they're not going to fire you. But if you're a contractor, they could be yeah, it's much more difficult. Now, finally, is adaptability. Too many times people have told me, "Oh, you're not adaptable. Arash is not adaptable. He's so rigid." So, let's go more. Adaptability is basically, once you hit a dead end, that's it. Don't keep going, it's a dead end. We want to adapt. We want to know how far we want to push. And here there's this research which shows adaptability is a strong predictor of career success, career satisfaction, and life satisfaction. Because 9 out of 10 times things are not going to go according to what we planned, and we need to be adaptable. So how can we be more adaptable? First one is focus on the why and not so much on the what. You can change the what. I use two analogies here. Let's say you want to swim across a river, right? And your goal is, there's a tree, I want to swim across the river and I want to end there, where that tree is. You start swimming, but the water is going to take you away. And no matter how hard you swim, you can't swim faster than water, right? So it could be a very bad situation where you drown or something. But if you focus on the goal, the why do I want to go I want to cross the river. It doesn't matter where I end up on the other side of the river, right? So you just keep swimming in that direction. Even the water is taking me, eventually I'm going to reach the other direction, right? The other analogy I use is, imagine an old European town, like an Italian town or a German town or a French town, and especially those ones which, the old towns usually have a castle at the center, and the castle is usually at the highest place of the town. And the towns, they're really, like a labyrinth, there are different alleys, they go all the other different ways. Your goal is to get on the castle, you want to go and visit the castle as a tourist, right? But you don't have a map. Internet is down, you don't have your mobile with you, you don't know how to get it. If you're not adaptable, say, okay, I want to go there, so I'm just going to keep climbing up. You keep climbing up, you hit a dead end. Then what are we going to do, right? They're going to climb from people's houses and keep going. It's a dead end, right? So we have to track back, go various directions. So sometimes it means I'm going away from my goal, even though my goal is that way. But because there's no way, it's a dead end. I have to get back and go around, right? So that's another analogy of being adaptable. Focus on the why and not the what and the how. Second, this is really interesting. When we're under stress, we're less adaptable. Cortisol, stress hormone, goes up, adaptability goes down. And we feel defensive, and it becomes harder to be adaptable. How do you fix this? Now, there are various different hormones in the body which counteracts cortisol, like, oxytocin or various other hormones. And you have to do things which reduces your levels of cortisol, like taking a walk in nature, petting an animal, playing with the children, being kind to someone, doing something compassionate. There are many, many different things you could do, meditate, blah, blah, but these are probably the most effective ones. And the last one this is also interesting. There are specific neurons in, I don't know where, not amygdala, another part of the brain, really deep inside, perineal gland or something, I don't know, somewhere deep inside the brain that they are responsible for brain plasticity. Plasticity means being plastic, taking shape, right? You're not rigid, you can change the neural pathways in your brain. And that's triggered by neurogenesis. Oh, hippocampus, there it is. Sorry, hippocampus. So, aerobic exercises triggers neurogenesis in hippocampus, which then increases brain plasticity and flexibility. So aerobic exercises would be really helpful, making you more adaptable. Any questions or comments? Right. So that brings us to the end of the slide, and we're ready to start the game. Anything that you want to talk about or ask before we get into the game? Right. So we have two games, and we need groups of 5 people. So can I ask you to first self-organize in groups of 5 people, and then I'll explain the rest to you.
Maybe if you in the back, do you want to join maybe some group in the front here? So we get 5 people together. We've got already one group over there.
So every table needs to have 5 people on.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's one group here. The two of you would you like to go here, or where are you heading? Yeah, you could join those 3 here. Then we've got one group of 5 here. So if you're in the back, if you're happy to join this group, we have a group of 5 down here then. Yeah, is that okay? Yeah, thank you. And then we have one group of 3s. I think otherwise we're not going to.
See.
Yeah, I think that's the best we can do.
Okay, group of 3. Do you want one of you to each join one of the tables just to observe what's going on? Because we need 5 for the game. So if you can each join one of the tables. And we got a spot here as well. Oh no, someone's coming. Yeah. Okay, I know what you can
We've
do.
got 6 here.
Alright. So the tables who have 6, when I give you the roles, 2 people can be the BA. So BA role will be shared by 2. Right?
5, 2.
Because BA doesn't have any hidden agendas, so you can all you don't need to see the instructions.
I think you can join any group now because we've made bigger groups now. Yeah, just find a free spot there.
So I'm gonna hand you over some little papers. So what's going on basically? This is a simulation, right? You're all in a meeting. There's a project. We are building a CRM for a small telco company. Think like I don't know, Leica Mobile or one of those smaller telco companies. We are building a CRM for them, and we got various roles on the table. One person is a BA, the other person is a project manager, engineering lead, product owner, and end user from the sales team who will be using the CRM. If you're in a table with 6 people on, there will be 2 BAs, right? And I will hand you these. Don't share it with anyone, right? Every person picks one. The person who is
it secret.
Keep it secret. Don't let anyone see it, right? This is hidden instruction for you about your character, about what your agenda is, right? The BA you wouldn't know who's who. It's random. You pick it. So once someone knows who's the BA, the last person who doesn't have a role that can be a BA as well, then you can talk. But only the BA, because BA doesn't have any hidden agenda, you can share the BA one. Everyone else, just keep it secret to yourself, right? Let me just see if I'm giving you the right ones. Right, how many groups do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Naresh, do we need this slide now?
We don't need it now. For the next game, we need it, but not now.
We need to switch to the camera.
Better, yes. And we want to do a bit of role play, right?